if I configure a device and you configure a device, we shouldn't be able to tell that two different people configured those devices. So welcome to Debt Free in IT. I'm your host, Mike. This podcast is for anyone who's looking to get into the IT industry, whether it's for a career change or you're just interested. I think you come to the right place. Today's episode stems from a listener's question, and their question was, what's more important for an aspiring network engineer, the cloud or learning Python? So before we get into this question, the one thing we must realize is that the networking role has changed a lot. So when it comes to the network engineer role, we can pretty much divide this up into two categories. We can divide this up into what I like to call traditional networking, and then also the more modern type or the more evolved type of networking. Where with the traditional networking, this is where we see where the job description may be asking for a lot of CLI experience. You may be doing a lot of manual configurations. Your updates may be manual. You still must know the routing protocols and everything that evolves around networking. But with this one, you're more hands-on with the equipment. So meaning that you may be actually going to the equipment, configuring it, or you may even have some sort of software that can push out some updates or push out some configuration changes. But for the most part, you're still in troubleshooting on that command line daily, where every day one of your first things you're doing is logging into the command line as you get calls for issues that's going on the network. A lot of times you're logging into this command line and you're figuring out those issues. I like to call this traditional networking. So this is pretty much the school where I grew up from. So with my experience, I never had a chance to interact with a lot of modern technologies that we have out here today. So my background is more this traditional range, to where you still see job descriptions looking for this type of network engineer. You know, most of the time it's going to be those smaller jobs, those smaller organizations, meaning like a local hospital. A lot of times your local town, you know, the government jobs. A lot of times, sad to say, but a lot of times they're the last ones to update all of their infrastructure. So they're going to be still on that traditional type of networking, where you may be more hands-on, dealing with the CLI on a daily basis. That's some of the things I remember doing, where almost every day I logged in on that CLI. So this is more what I like to consider that traditional networking route. And then as we look at the modern engineer, the more involved network engineer, a lot of times with this type of position, you'll see where the job description may be asking for experience with software-defined networking, some automation experience using Python or Ansible, also some API experience, and also some cloud and scripting experience. So a lot of times this is newer technologies, and most of the time when I do see these job descriptions, they're coming from the large organizations. So if you're looking at a profit company, a for-profit company, a lot of times they're looking for someone with this access, because a lot of times those larger organizations, they are some of the first ones to have the funds to implement these newer technologies. So to me, it creates a divide in the networking world, to where, okay, you got that traditional networking, then you got that more where using better technology and things like that, where still there's a use case for both of them, but it just depends on the organization you're applying to, and then the organization where you may be already at. So when it comes to this type of engineer, they may not be necessarily logging in on the CLI every day. So a lot of times this type of engineer, their organization most likely has tools in place or different pieces of software applications that they've implemented, something like maybe a Cisco DNA Center, to where instead of logging in on that CLI, they're able to go to this application to start troubleshooting the different issues that's going on the network. So the next thing I like to look at is some benefits of knowing Python and networking. So the first benefit is automation. So you can save time by automating repetitive tasks. So the first thing I think about here is your configuration changes. So basically being able to make your configurations more efficient, to where if I configure a device and you configure a device, we shouldn't be able to tell that two different people configured those devices. So that's what knowing some Python is going to help you to do. And also it's going to be beneficial to your team that you own too, because any kind of little repetitive task that they may have, they can have you come up with a script. That way they don't have to worry about doing that repetitive task. So the first benefit of Python and networking, of course, is automation. And then the next thing, of course, is going to give you a career advantage. So like I said, Python and coding is pretty much touching every realm of the IT infrastructure. So basically, where years ago I never would have even thought about being able to use code within networking, but now it's here, it's used daily. So it's going to help your career out a lot because you're going to be more versatile, you're going to be more marketable. So a lot of times, like I said, even if it was a traditional networking job description that may not even ask for any Python experience, basically by you having Python experience, it could still increase you getting that certain position because a lot of people know how valuable knowing Python is because you're able to create these scripts. You're able to make the workday more efficient. You know, you're able to come up with different things that's needed to help out your organization. So I think this will give you a career advantage of learning Python. And then as well as it's going to help you out within your networking career. Quick pause. I'd like to introduce you to the Log Files. The Log Files is a weekly newsletter to help you start your IT career with practical advice and tips powered by yours truly. So it launched at the beginning of the year. It's packed with actionable advice, resources, and insights to kickstart your IT journey. The link is in the description as well as pinned in the comments, so don't miss out. Now back to the episode. So one of the next things I like to look at is the benefit of having some cloud experience when it comes down to networking. So one of the things is having this cloud experience. Of course, when you go on your job hunt or when you're on your job search, you will be open to more positions because sometimes you're going to see certain networking positions that may say or may ask in the experience section that you have some experience with Azure or AWS. So starting out with the cloud, like I said, this is also a good path to go down also because this is going to give you that high value skill set because what if you're applying for an organization that may have a hybrid model to where, okay, you still need those traditional networking skills, but also there may be some days where you're troubleshooting within the cloud model. So you're troubleshooting within Azure, you're troubleshooting within AWS. So I think all of this will make you real valuable also. So by knowing a little bit of the cloud, and then also, like I said, with Python, that's also got a real valuable skill set too. So basically it boils down to it's a very tough decision when someone's trying to start or trying to figure out that, okay, which route should I go first? Should I learn Python or should I go down this cloud route where both of them is real valuable? So when it comes down to which is more important for the aspiring network engineer, the cloud or Python, my suggestion would be if it was me starting over or if it was me going this route, the first thing I would do probably is learn enough Python to be dangerous. So I would learn Python as it pertains to scripting, as it pertains to automation. I would learn pretty much anything Python that's related to networking. So I would learn that aspect first. Then once I got comfortable with that aspect, then I would move on to whatever cloud vendor I was trying to pursue, mainly aiming towards their networking certification within that cloud vendor. I know AWS has a networking specialty, and I think Azure has one too. But so I would start with the scripting, learn the Python scripting, then move on to the cloud. And that way, you know, it's not going to take fairly too long. You know, I would say probably a year or so that this could probably be done depending on how devoted you are to it. But I think that gives us a little bit of the best of both worlds to where you are comfortable with some Python, you know enough just to be dangerous, and then you're comfortable on the cloud side also. So to me, if I had to start over, that would probably be the route I choose. So hopefully if you made it this far, let me know in the comments, which one of these skills do you think is more important for an aspiring network engineer, cloud or Python? Let me know in the comments. So that brings me to the end of this episode. Hopefully you found some value in this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, you can follow me at DebtFreeInIT. If you have any questions, you can email me at debtfreeinit@gmail.com, or you can visit me at debtfreeinitwithmike.com. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Peace.